I'm not your ex-wife, Mr. Parker. I'm Victoria, CEO of Meridian Enterprises, the company that just acquired your design firm. The text message glowed on Jake's phone screen as his coffee mug slipped from his fingers, shattering against the kitchen floor while his 7-year-old daughter Emma watched with wide eyes. He had just sent what he thought was a heartfelt message to his ex-wife about their daughter's upcoming birthday, including private family details and a vulnerable admission about his struggles as a single father, but it had gone to his new boss instead. The woman who now controlled not just his professional future but, given his precarious financial situation after the divorce, possibly his ability to keep the home where Emma felt safe. "Daddy, why is your face all red?" Emma asked, clutching her stuffed rabbit as Jake frantically typed an apology. Before he could send it, 3 dots appeared, followed by another message: "This conversation requires a face-to-face meeting. I'll be at your address in 30 minutes. Jake's heart hammered against his ribs. What would this ice-cold executive do with his accidental confession? Would she see it as unprofessional weakness? Would she use this vulnerability against him in the company restructuring everyone feared was coming? And why was she personally coming to his modest suburban home instead of summoning him to her gleaming downtown office? Jake rushed to clean the house, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. He had worked 15 years building his reputation at the design firm, climbing from junior designer to creative director. Now, with the acquisition, everything hung by a thread. He needed this job, the medical benefits covered Emma's asthma treatments, and the flexible hours allowed him to be there for school pickups since his ex-wife had moved across the country with her new husband. As he straightened the living room, he found Emma's drawing of their family, just the two of them now, standing beside their little house with "Home Sweet Home" written in a child's uneven letters. He couldn't lose this. He couldn't fail her. The doorbell rang precisely 30 minutes later. Jake opened it to find Victoria standing on his porch, her in perfect posture making him acutely aware of his hastily changed t-shirt and jeans. At 38, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who commanded boardrooms without raising her voice. Her expression was unreadable as she stepped inside, declining his nervous offer of coffee with a slight shake of her head. "Mr. Parker," she began, then stopped abruptly as Emma peeked around the corner. "Are you Daddy's boss?" Emma asked, approaching with curious eyes. "He said you're very important and very scary." Victoria's composed facade cracked for just a moment. Was that a smile? Before she knelt to Emma's level. "I am your father's boss." "But am I scary?" she asked, her voice softer than Jake had ever heard in the 3 company-wide meetings she'd conducted since the acquisition. "Not really," Emma decided after serious consideration. "You look like the princess from my book. The one who runs the kingdom by herself." What happened next changed everything Jake thought he knew about Victoria Chen. Instead of dismissing Emma, she asked to see the book, following his daughter to the small bookshelf in the corner. For 15 minutes, Jake watched in astonishment as the notorious Steel Dragon of Wall Street discussed princess politics with his daughter. When Emma finally returned to her coloring at the kitchen table, Victoria turned to Jake with eyes that seemed somehow different, warmer, perhaps, or simply more human. "Your message was meant for your ex-wife," she said. It wasn't a question. "About Emma's birthday party next weekend." Jake nodded, his throat dry. "I'm sorry for the unprofessional. My father raised me alone after my mother died," Victoria interrupted, her voice low enough that Emma couldn't hear. "I recognized something in your message that reminded me of him. The worry that you're not enough. The fear that you're failing her somehow." She glanced toward Emma, then back to Jake. "You're not failing, Mr. Parker. And I'm not here to discuss your employment." Jake felt the tension in his shoulders ease slightly, but confusion took its place. "Then why?" Victoria's phone chimed. She checked it, her professional mask slipping back into place. "I need to return to the office." "But this conversation isn't finished." She handed him a business card with a personal number handwritten on the back. "Call me this evening after Emma is asleep. There are things about the company restructuring you should know, things that could affect your department directly." After she left, Jake stood holding the card, a cold dread settling in his stomach. What had she meant? Was his team being eliminated after all? He tucked the card into his pocket, forcing a smile as he joined Emma at the table, determined to keep his worries from touching her world for as long as possible. That night, after reading Emma 3 bedtime stories and watching her drift to sleep, Jake paced the living room for 20 minutes before finally dialing Victoria's number. She answered on the second ring. "I've been waiting for your call, Jake," she said, using his first name for the first time. "I need to be direct. Your design team is one of the primary reasons Meridian acquired your firm. But the board wants to relocate the entire creative department to our headquarters in Chicago." Jake felt the floor drop beneath him. Chicago. 1,500 miles away. Away from the support system he'd built for Emma, the school she loved, the house that had become their sanctuary after the divorce. "Ms. Chen, I can't." "Victoria," she corrected. "And I know you can't relocate. That's why I'm calling. I've spent the evening reviewing your team's portfolios and your leadership assessments. I'm proposing an alternative to the board tomorrow, establishing a satellite creative office here, with you as executive creative director." She paused. "It would mean a significant promotion, Jake. And it would mean you and Emma could stay where you are." Jake sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. "Why would you do this?" The silence stretched for several seconds before Victoria answered. "Because talent deserves recognition. Because breaking up functioning teams is bad business." Another pause. "And because 15 years ago, my father turned down a promotion that would have advanced his career significantly, because it would have meant uprooting me after I'd already lost my mother. Some choices matter more than corporate ladders." 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the newly renovated satellite office, watching as his expanded team settled into their workspaces. The promotion had come with challenges, longer hours, greater responsibilities, but also with resources he'd never had before and the flexibility to structure his schedule around Emma's needs. He was reviewing design mock-ups when his phone buzzed with a text from Victoria, "Board presentation in 30. Need your input on the Henderson campaign." Video call? Their professional relationship had developed into something neither had expected. A partnership built on mutual respect and complementary strengths. Victoria's strategic vision paired surprisingly well with Jake's creative approach, and their teams had already landed 2 major clients that had previously rejected Meridian's pitches. But it was their personal conversations, often late in the evening after both had finished their work, that had begun to shift something fundamental between them. Victoria had shared stories of her childhood, of watching her father struggle to balance parenthood and career. Jake had talked about his fears for Emma, his determination to give her stability despite the divorce. Somewhere in those exchanges, the formality had fallen away, revealing 2 people who understood each other's complexities in ways neither had anticipated. The video call connected, showing Victoria in her office, her usual impeccable appearance slightly softened by the late hour. "The Henderson presentation is solid," she said without preamble. "But something's missing in the final concept boards. They don't have that emotional resonance your work usually carries." Jake nodded, appreciating her directness. "I've been thinking the same thing. What if we approach it from the family legacy angle instead? Henderson's been family-owned for 3 generations." As they worked through the concept, Jake noticed Victoria glancing at something off-screen several times. "Is everything okay?" he finally asked. She hesitated, then turned her laptop to reveal a small gift bag on her desk. "Emma's birthday party is tomorrow. I wasn't sure if it would be appropriate for me to attend, but..." She turned the laptop back. "I found this book about a princess who becomes an architect. I thought she might like it." The simple gesture, This powerful woman who intimidated corporate rivals thinking about what might delight a 7-year-old girl, struck Jake with unexpected force. "You should come," he said before he could overthink it. "Emma would love to see you again. She still talks about the princess lady who visited our house." Victoria's smile, rare and genuine, transformed her face. "I'd like that," she said softly. "I'd like that very much." The birthday party was a turning point. Watching Victoria help Emma build an elaborate castle out of building blocks, laughing more freely than he'd ever seen at the office, Jake recognized something he hadn't allowed himself to feel since his divorce: possibility. Not just professional possibility, but personal too, the chance that his and Emma's family of two might someday have room to grow again. As autumn arrived, Jake and Victoria's relationship deepened. They maintained professional boundaries at work, but evenings and weekends increasingly found Victoria at their home, helping Emma with homework or joining them for movie nights. Jake watched in amazement as his daughter blossomed under Victoria's attention, sharing interests and conversations that were uniquely theirs. One evening in November, as they prepared dinner together while Emma finished a school project, Victoria broached a subject they'd been carefully avoiding. "The Henderson contract is finalized," she said, chopping vegetables with precise movements. "The board is impressed with how the satellite office has performed under your leadership." Jake smiled, stirring the pasta sauce. "It's been a good quarter. They've approved my recommendation for permanent expansion," Victoria continued. "We'll need a larger space." "That's fantastic news," Jake said, turning to face her. "The team will be thrilled." Victoria set down her knife, meeting his eyes directly. "There's more. The expansion includes a housing allowance for the executive creative director. A significant one." She took a deep breath. "Jake, I know we've been careful about keeping our personal and professional lives separate, but I need to ask, where do you see this going? Us, I mean." Before Jake could answer, Emma bounded into the kitchen, waving a completed science project. "Look what I finished. Can Victoria help me practice my presentation?" The moment passed, but the question lingered between them. Later that night, after Emma was asleep, Jake found Victoria on the back porch, wrapped in a blanket against the November chill. "You asked where I see this going," he said, sitting beside her. "The truth is, I see everything with you, Victoria. I see mornings and evenings and weekends. I see holidays and ordinary Tuesdays. I see Emma growing up with you in her life." He took her hand. "I'm in love with you. I think I have been since you sat on my living room floor discussing princess politics with my daughter." Victoria's composure, legendary in corporate circles, faltered. "I've never had this," she admitted quietly. "A family. Belonging somewhere that has nothing to do with achievement or position." She squeezed his hand. "I love you too, Jake. And I love Emma. It terrifies me how much." As December approached, they faced their first challenge as a couple. Jake's ex-wife called, wanting to change their holiday custody arrangement to take Emma to her new in-laws for Christmas, a time Emma was supposed to spend with Jake. The negotiation was tense, with Jake torn between maintaining his time with his daughter and not wanting Emma caught in parental conflict. It was Victoria who suggested the compromise. Emma would spend Christmas Eve and morning with Jake and Victoria, then fly to join her mother for the remainder of her school break. "Family isn't about perfect schedules," Victoria told Jake. "It's about making sure Emma knows she's loved, wherever she is." Christmas Eve brought matching pajamas, Victoria's initial protests overruled by Emma's enthusiasm, cookie baking, and holiday movies. As they prepared for Emma's departure the next day, Jake overheard his daughter asking Victoria a question that stopped him in his tracks. "Will you still be here when I get back?" Emma asked, her voice small. "Mommy wasn't here when I got back from summer camp. She moved away with Todd." Victoria knelt to Emma's level, her voice gentle but firm. Emma, I promise you this, I will always be here. Not just when you get back from your mom's, but for all the days after that too. That's what family means. The weeks that followed brought both joy and challenges. A major client crisis erupted, requiring Victoria's presence at headquarters for emergency meetings. Jake juggled his own work responsibilities while maintaining daily video calls with Emma. Their carefully balanced new life faced its first real test of resilience. On New Year's Eve, with Emma still at her mother's and Jake alone in the house, the doorbell rang just before midnight. He opened it to find Victoria standing there, snowflakes in her hair, looking exhausted but determined. "The Henderson crisis?" he asked, surprised. "Resolved at 10 p.m., she confirmed, stepping inside. "I chartered a flight to get back here before midnight." Jake's eyebrows rose. "You chartered a private jet for New Year's Eve?" "I needed to be here," Victoria said simply. "I realized something important during those endless meetings. For the first time in my life, work wasn't the most important thing in the room. All I could think about was getting back to you, to this home we're building together." As winter turned to spring, their lives settled into new patterns. Victoria's lease expired, and she officially moved in, her minimalist designer furniture finding surprising harmony with Jake's more casual pieces. Emma delighted in helping Victoria organize her closet, the two of them developing inside jokes about Victoria's collection of nearly identical black suits. By summer, as they approached the anniversary of that fateful misdirected text, Jake found himself reflecting on how completely his life had transformed in a single year. What had begun with a moment of panic had evolved into a love deeper than he'd ever known and a family stronger than he'd dared to hope for. On the exact anniversary of the text, Jake sent Victoria a message. "1 year ago today, I thought I was texting my ex-wife, instead I found my future. Thank you for coming to my house that day and seeing something worth staying for." Victoria's reply came moments later, "Best wrong number I ever received. Here's to many more years of right choices." That evening, as they celebrated with a special dinner, Emma presented them with a drawing, 3 figures standing beside a house, with "Our Family" written in careful letters across the top. As Jake and Victoria exchanged glances over their daughter's head, both knew that sometimes life's most beautiful chapters begin with what seems like a mistake. From which country are you watching this story unfold? Whether you're in the United States, the United Kingdom, South Africa, or the Philippines, perhaps you've experienced how the wrong turn can sometimes lead us exactly where we're meant to be. If this journey of finding family in unexpected places touched your heart, like and subscribe for more stories that remind us that sometimes the most perfect love stories don't follow a script, they write themselves in the everyday moments that transform strangers into family, one text message at a time.